Nothing is more frightening knowing that true evil really exists. Evil comes in all forms. Most of the time, you never know until it's too late. The stories you are about to hear have been documented and verified as authentic. It's important to revisit certain events, no matter how unsettling and upsetting they are. It's a reminder to ourselves that tomorrow is never guaranteed. So keep your loved ones close and your eyes and ears open as together we explore the unknown. In 1993, Saifo William Madlachi's life took an unexpected and horrifying turn. The day started like any other, but it ended in a nightmare that would haunt him forever. Madlachi was involved in a severe car accident in Johannesburg, South Africa. The collision was catastrophic, leaving him unconscious and severely injured. When the paramedics arrived, they found him unresponsive, with no detectable pulse or breath. After a brief examination, the paramedics declared him dead at the scene, a decision that would later prove to be gravely premature. Madlachi's body was transported to a state mortuary, where it was placed in a refrigerated compartment alongside other bodies. For 2 days, he lay in the cold, dark confines of the morgue, surrounded by the dead. The frigid air burned his skin, and the overwhelming silence was punctuated only by the occasional sound of the refrigeration unit humming. Unknown to everyone, Madlachi was slowly regaining consciousness, trapped in a state of paralysis and terror. His fiancée, heartbroken and in deep mourning, requested to see his body one last time before the final rites. As she approached the lifeless figure, she noticed something extraordinary. Madlachi's eyelids flickered. Initially, she thought her grief was playing tricks on her, but then she saw his fingers twitch. She screamed, alerting the mortuary staff, who quickly realized their grave mistake. Madlachi was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he was treated for severe hypothermia and dehydration. The medical team worked tirelessly to stabilize him, and against all odds, he made a full recovery. However, the ordeal left deep psychological scars. Madlachi experienced vivid nightmares and developed a severe fear of enclosed spaces. Despite surviving this harrowing experience, his life took another tragic turn. His fiancée, who had initially fought for his life, began to believe that he had been resurrected as a zombie, a belief rooted in local superstitions. This led to the tragic end of their relationship, adding emotional pain to his already traumatic experience. This case serves as a chilling reminder of the importance of thorough medical examinations and the potential consequences of premature burial. It also highlights the cultural and societal impacts of such traumatic experiences, showing how deeply ingrained beliefs can influence people's actions and relationships. In 2011, Fagiliu Mukhametsyanov, a 49-year-old woman from Kazan, Russia, experienced an unthinkable tragedy that would send shivers down anyone's spine. Mukhametsyanov had been feeling unwell for several days, suffering from severe chest pains. One fateful evening, she collapsed at home, clutching her chest in agony. Her husband, Fagili Mukhametsyanov, immediately called for an ambulance. Despite their best efforts, the paramedics could not revive her, and she was pronounced dead. The family, engulfed in grief, began preparations for her funeral. Mukhametsyanov's body was placed in an open coffin in her home, surrounded by grieving relatives and friends. The atmosphere was heavy with sorrow, as mourners paid their final respects amidst the flickering candlelight and the scent of incense. As they gathered to say goodbye, something extraordinary and terrifying happened. Mukhametsyanov opened her eyes. The dim light of the candles revealed her horrified expression as she realized she was inside a coffin. She began to scream in terror, her cries echoing through the room. The mourners were stunned, some frozen in fear, others rushing to help. The shock of waking up in such a situation proved too much for her already weakened heart. Mukhametsyanov suffered a massive heart attack and was rushed back to the hospital. Despite the doctor's best efforts, she passed away for real just a short time later. This case not only highlights the terrifying possibility of premature burial, but also underscores the emotional and psychological trauma associated with such experiences. The harrowing ordeal left a lasting impact on her family and friends, who were haunted by the memory of her waking up in the coffin. Mukhametsyanov's story was widely reported in the media, sparking discussions about the need for more comprehensive medical checks before declaring someone dead. The incident led to a review of medical practices in Russia, with calls for better training and more rigorous checks to prevent such tragedies from occurring in the future. Mukhamatsyanov's story remains a haunting reminder of the fine line between life and death and the importance of accuracy in medical diagnoses. In 1987, Stephen Small, a successful businessman from Kankakee, Illinois, faced a terrifying ordeal that ended in tragedy. Small, known for his wealth and influence, became the target of a meticulously planned kidnapping. On a seemingly ordinary evening, he received a phone call instructing him to go to a specific location. Unbeknownst to him, it was a trap set by his kidnappers, Daniel Edwards and Nancy Risch. As soon as Small arrived, he was overpowered and taken to a remote area where a wooden box had been prepared. The kidnappers buried him alive in this box, which was equipped with a small air pipe and a light. Their plan was to demand a $1 million ransom from Small's family, believing that the air pipe would keep him alive long enough for the money to be delivered. Small's confinement in the box was a living nightmare. The air was thick and stifling, and the small light provided little comfort in the oppressive darkness. He could hear the faint sounds of the outside world, but they were distorted and distant. The walls of the box seemed to close in on him, and every breath was a struggle. Despite the kidnappers' belief that the air pipe would suffice, it failed to provide adequate ventilation. Meanwhile, Small's family was frantic, working closely with the police to meet the ransom demands and trace the phone calls. After hours of intense investigation, the police managed to locate the site where Small was buried. They raced against time, digging frantically to reach the box. However, their efforts were in vain. By the time they reached Small, he had already suffocated due to the inadequate air supply. The case shocked the nation and highlighted the extreme lengths to which criminals might go for financial gain. The kidnappers were caught and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Small's tragic death emphasized the importance of timely intervention in kidnapping cases and the dire consequences of criminal actions. The memory of his ordeal left a lasting impact on his family and the community, serving as a grim reminder of the horrors of premature burial. Angelo Hayes, a 19-year-old from France, experienced a terrifying and miraculous story of being buried alive. In 1937, Hayes was involved in a motorcycle accident that left him severely injured. When doctors arrived at the scene, they could not find any signs of life and declared him dead. Hayes was placed in a coffin, and his funeral was held 2 days later. Due to an insurance policy taken out on Hayes's life, the insurance company requested an exhumation to verify the cause of death. When the coffin was opened, the examiners were shocked to find Hayes still alive, although in a deep coma. He was rushed to a hospital where he received immediate medical attention and eventually made a full recovery. Hayes' story became famous and led to widespread discussions about premature burial and the importance of thorough medical examinations before declaring someone deceased. He later went on to invent a security coffin equipped with various features to prevent premature burial, including a small food supply, water, and an air vent. In 1891, Octavia Smith Hatcher of Pikeville, Kentucky, experienced a tragic and unsettling case of premature burial. After the death of her infant son, Hatcher fell into a deep depression and became bedridden. She soon slipped into a coma-like state and was pronounced dead. Given the warm weather, her burial was conducted quickly. Shortly after her burial, several other townspeople fell into a similar coma-like state but later recovered. Realizing that Hatcher might have been buried alive, her husband, James Hatcher, arranged for her body to be exhumed. To his horror, he found the coffin's lining scratched and Octavia's fingernails broken and bloodied, indicating she had been buried alive and tried to escape. The case of Octavia Smith Hatcher remains one of the most tragic examples of premature burial, highlighting the medical misdiagnoses prevalent in the 19th century and the importance of ensuring death before burial. And those were just 5 of the many true stories of people who found themselves buried alive. But what's truly terrifying is that these incidents aren't just relics of the past. Even today, in our modern world, the fear of being buried alive still haunts us. Imagine lying in your bed tonight, the comfort of your blankets feeling just a little too much like the weight of the earth pressing down on you. As you close your eyes, imagine the silence of a coffin, the darkness so complete that you can't tell if your eyes are open or shut. You feel a tightening in your chest, and every breath becomes a struggle, as if the air is being sucked out of the room. As you try to fall asleep, remember that the line between life and death is thinner than you think. Medical errors, premature declarations of death, and the terrifying thought that not every coffin is as empty as we hope. So, as you drift into sleep tonight, listen closely to the sounds around you. Is it just the creaking of your house settling? Or could it be the faint, desperate scratching of someone trapped, trying to escape? Sleep well, and remember, sometimes it's not the nightmares that keep you awake, but the reality that they could very well come true.